As everyone now knows, recording is in progress. Welcome to the February meeting of the Normal Heights Community Planning Group. I am not the usual host. I am a fill-in for tonight, so please bear with me. Our usual chair was not able to make it tonight, so I'm filling in. This is the monthly meeting of the planning group. We are the officially recognized group of volunteers that advises the city of San Diego on land use issues in the Normal Heights neighborhood. Let's see, so on the table by the door, there had been copies of the agenda. I think the agendas are all out. So if you want to see an agenda, meet your neighbor, ask to look over their shoulder. We also have some here, so if somebody wants one, I can get you one. I can look at my copy. I should, be able to follow along. Let's see, there's also a sign-in sheet. Please feel free to sign in. You don't have to. But if you want to, we appreciate it. It helps us with our numbers when we report to the city. And you can also leave your email address if you'd like to get on the mailing list. This meeting is being broadcast live on Zoom. It's also being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the planning group's website within a week or so. For those of you in Zoom, the chat is not being monitored. It is not a part of the official record of the meeting. But if you would like to leave your name and email, if you'd like to have your attendance recorded and to be added to the mailing list, you're free to do so. I do ask that everybody remember a couple of key things that help these meetings run smoothly and productively. Speak. Only one person speak at a time. That's always most helpful. We have a pretty good crowd tonight, so I will try to make sure that I give everybody a chance to talk. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. I'll call on you. For those of you in Zoom, you can raise your hand in your reactions, and I can call on you there. The only exception to the interrupting rule, which no interruptions, is Parker. Where's Parker? There he is. Parker is our timekeeper, and we do have time limits during public comment. And if you hit the time limit, Parker will let you know. He's very good at it. So he's the one person who's allowed to interrupt. And that's the only time he can. Please remember that everyone who is here tonight is here because they care about our neighborhood. So let's always try to treat each other with respect and courtesy. And so with that, how about some introductions of the board? So let's start with Dan.
Yeah, so number 38th Street.
Francis Pacheco, I'm a resident since 1991.
Scott Kessler, representing the Adams Avenue Business Association.
Amy Burrows, I'm secretary and a renter in Normal Heights.
Kenny Patrick, member at large, I guess. And I own a house in Normal Heights.
Alan Hargela, I am a resident of Normal Heights. Jacob Coogan, resident of Normal Heights.
I'm Julia Corbett, and I'm a resident of Normal Heights.
Madison Stevens, resident with Utah.
Brian Adams, also a resident.
Thank you.
I'm Nancy Waller, and I'm a resident from Normal Heights. I'm also on the advisory group for Adams Avenue.
All right, great, thanks. So first up, I will announce a slight adjustment in tonight's agenda order. Sarah from City Council District number 9 office will provide her update before item number 5. Any other agenda issues? Seeing none, we're going to move on. Now, I know the next two things that we had planned to do by consent agenda, but I failed to put it on the agenda when I put it together. So we're going to do them the old-fashioned way, and it should only take a couple of seconds. So regarding the January meeting minutes, are there any clarifying questions from the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Jacob made the motion to approve. Any seconded? Any discussion? No discussion? Let's do a show of hands. All in favor? Looks like everybody's in favor. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Nope, okay. Francis, anything to report?
Yeah, the balance of the account still is at the same, $332, 36 no change.
Nope, great, thanks. So let's turn to Sarah from District 9. She's gonna give us an update, and so once she's done with her update, then we'll turn it over to Q&A.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm a community representative of Council Office District 9. Thank you for letting me go at the beginning of the agenda. I just have something I have to get to. I don't have too many updates, just a couple. But first is about Ward Canyon Park. Some of you might have heard that the storefront building in Ward Canyon Park is going to be demolished. So it was originally supposed to be early February. Unfortunately, it has been pushed again until early March. Now, I asked the engineering department why. This was just due to the fact that there's like a lot of paperwork processing time. It is something that our council office has been advocating for a while, and I'm sure I know you all have as well. Because the building had like asbestos, and typically like negotiations with contractors can take some time. But hopefully in early March, we will be seeing the building demolished. I also wanted to let you know that we would like to organize a cleanup after the building is demolished. So if you would like to sign up for the cleanup for Ward Canyon Park, feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna put a few of my cards on the table. And then I'll go ahead and send you the information on that. Any questions?
Yes.
You're inviting the public to come clean a area that's exposed to asbestos and other contaminant?
No, that's after the building is removed and everything else, like all of the asbestos is removed.
Yeah.
And this is
To
a
clean up the
organized
mock building
community
site?
cleanup.
The mock
That's
building,
typically something that council offices and community participate in.
the mock building site, not the whole park, right? Is that what you're saying?
I believe it will be at the site and the park, but we still need to work out a few details. I don't have all the information at the top of my head.
Did you give a date?
For
Generally.
early March, that's all they told me. They told me they'll send me a specific timeline sometime next week, which I will share.
Talk to you, it was late January.
Yes.
Early March.
Yes, unfortunately, it is out of our hands, so it's, it's not up to us. Yes.
Sarah, I know you're just a messenger and you're not in charge of the city workforce, but just for the record, we were originally told it was starting last September, so it's been, and of course, for the record, it's been 30 years since the city, I mean, it's domain the building and the park was built 20 years ago, and that's the U corridor to the park from Adams, and so the delay of another month or two, it's really, so, I mean, March would be great, but we've been saying that since September when it was renewed that it was gonna happen, so.
Yeah,
Just for people that have never been here before, it's been,
I would 100% agree with you.
yeah,
I know
and you're,
it's
and it's,
frustrating for us
you're
too.
just carrying the message forward
Yeah.
and no reflection on the council officer, I think it's,
Yeah, no, but we are just as frustrated off this
I
as
know,
everyone
yes,
else.
of course you are. Yeah.
So I will keep you posted though on any new details about that. Any other questions about Work Canyon? All right, I also wanted to let you know that path workers are also still doing outreach at the park, and outreach to the homeless individuals. And they told us they should be wrapping up sometime this month, but I'll keep you posted on all of that. Yeah.
On Boundary, going from Adams to the barriers,
Mhm,
there's all that heading parking.
mhm.
There are no curb cuts, so if anybody is using a car and needs accessibility, there's no way for them to get up the curb anywhere on there.
Mhm.
And I've reported a number of times on Get It Done, but they just close it. And I know it's Caltrans land, but access needs to be given to that stretch of road.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction over Caltrans. And I know there have been negotiations between the city and Caltrans about pretty much giving up that land, but the city right now is currently facing a budget deficit, so we don't have money to buy it off of Caltrans. But if you have any other specific issues around it that's not on Caltrans, feel free to reach out to me. All right.
So- We have a question on Zoom from Danielle.
Yes, can you hear me, Alan? Okay, thank you. At the last CRG meeting, Sarah, I also asked about the Caltrans land, and I'm not sure if the city is supposed to be buying it, so maybe further negotiations with Caltrans are in order, because there was some kind of an agreement about the Caltrans turning it over, just like they did for the little tiny piece of grass just to the west of Ponce's Restaurant on the opposite corner of that intersection of Adams Ave and Highway 15. And then there's another question that just popped up. Why are there big piles of sand and trucks back there again?
So from what I've been told, that tends to appear and disappear at random times. We know that it's not city owned. I've checked with our departments and it's not city owned and we don't know where it's coming from. So I can tell city staff to go ahead and check it out again to see where it's coming from. But all I know is that it's not from the city. Yes.
Are they allowed to use that as a staging area, private companies and stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But again, don't take my word for it. I need to double check with staff on it. Okay. Next, I wanted to let you all know about the Office of Child and Youth Success. They're having a series of workshops focused on how youth can take an active role in shaping the future of San Diego. They're having one on Thursday, February 13th, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the City Heights Rec Center. You can also look up more information at svd9.info/youth lead. And that's all I have for you. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we are going to move on to non-agenda public comment. So at this point in the meeting, we invite anyone in attendance who wants to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda, do so. The time limit is 2 minutes per person, and Parker will let you know if you hit the 2 minutes. We are going to start. Oh, let's go ahead and start with you.
My name is Adam Deutsch. My kid goes to Adam's Elementary over here. The Parks and Rec Department, sorry. The Parks and Rec Department has a habit of closing the joint use field for a stretch of 16 weeks every year. It deprives the community from being able to use it. It deprives the kids at the schools, both of them, Adams and Global Vision, from using it and having open space. I know that it needs to be reseeded, but 16 weeks is a very long time and it's always in the school year. So we have a joint use agreement that's effectively not useful for a third of the school year at least. I think that maybe there needs to be a better way to maintain the grass there and not shut down a community resource. We're a very underparked neighborhood. So when that goes offline, it hurts the entire neighborhood. So I hope that the board can advocate for something that doesn't shut down for 16 weeks annually.
Thank you. Jim.
Hi, Adam.
What's up, Jim?
I chair the Community Recreation Group, which meets, when do we meet? Fourth Tuesday, at 6 o'clock. That issue comes up often. Part of the reason that the field is down because of the weather. And also, when we have the street fair, I know you all go to the carnival and ride the rides, and they tear up the field quite a bit. We're all complaining, and they hope to have it open as soon as March.
Little League starts this week too, and we can't use the fields.
And we have representatives on the community recreation group, and they're quite aware. Thank you for your agitation. We're all mad as hell, right?
Thanks, Jim.
Scott.
I guess I have to jump in. So the street fair carnival does not damage the turf. The reason, Adam, that the field is under repair is that the city just in the last couple of years, this is, I think, only the second time they've done it, and they didn't do it for 20 years prior. So the street fair was blamed a few years ago by Park and Rec, and we took Google photos over 30 years and showed them the same bare spots that have always been there way before the carnival. So I see it, I know it's a horrible inconvenience, but they claim they need that much time and the grass obviously looks beautiful right now, it's the best it's ever looked. But they never did this before, and so they're trying to get the field up, and the street fair is not what damages the field, it's just use the field, so. I don't know if we want the grass to be grown in, I don't know if they can do it any quicker, but I'm just telling you, I think this is only the second time I remember them doing it in the last 20 years.
They told us that they needed time for it to establish, but it's looked pretty good for the last 4 weeks or so. But
Yeah, I got it, yeah,
between the school and Little League usage,
so they could have opened it up
Yeah.
earlier,
I think so.
got it.
Well, thanks. Anybody else in the room here?
Hello, I'm Susan Redlings, and I made a comment last time, I'm a resident, very long-term resident, and I made a comment about starting fire safety council meeting on Heights, which is what they have in Kensington. Yes, it's 40 years overdue. June 30, 25, it will be the 40th anniversary of our Normal Heights fire. So this is an effort to spread awareness, of course, of what kind of hardening materials are out there, what we can do to help our canyons stay healthy, because I think pretty much all of us live on canyons, and we don't want them impacted by debris, etc. Anyway, the first steps, we're early days here, and the first steps I got in front of me are like coming up with a logo and a letterhead and really looking like a for real group. I happen to have doodled a few of them. I don't know if it's kosher for me to maybe put them over here, maybe people could put it in and see what you might like. There are some guidelines. We try to do what we could, just sort of, we're not professional photographers. My husband and I did this, but we came up with some pretty cool things. Anyway, I'd like a little input, because I don't really think that I should be the one making all these grand, vast decisions on such a big effort. But anyway,
So you have
Yes.
like several logos and you want us to check which one we like?
yeah, well, I've got about 10, that we just doodled very quickly on our computer, and I printed them up. And of course, there's going to be restrictions of color and where you can place it. And you have to use the fire safe triangle with that little flame. I'm thinking it's like we're a franchise of a bigger organization. I'm just learning, like I said, a lot of this in early days right now. But I'm gonna have things like a dumpathon, which also promotes healthy canyons. And along with that logo, we can put something like an identifier. I had the thought of maybe, because the street fair, that could have something like.
Oh, time, so.
Okay, thank
But do you have contact? Do you have a way for folks to contact you if they're interested in getting involved?
absolutely, and Paul, who knows for.
Okay.
Just to, build on top of Susan's comments, we're trying to create this,
What's our,
Raise the point of order.
Okay,
say point of order?
Yeah, point of order.
Fire safety?
No, I'm just wondering why there's like, 20 times more people than we've ever had this meeting. It seems like, and I'm just pointing out that we usually have 10 people in the audience, and it's very unusual, and I'm assuming you all are bike advocates that have come to talk about bicycling.
Say yes.
Yeah.
The agenda, public comment. That's, people are really.
But why are we, I didn't understand that was the purpose of the meeting, that someone's gonna organize like a whole bike group to come in here, because we've tried to get people into the meeting for years, and we can only get 10 people in here.
I'm thrilled
How
they're
many,
here.
I just would like to know how many of you live in Normal Heights?
Bing.
Only.
And were you all invited to the meeting to talk about bike safety? Yeah, okay.
welcome.
I just saw a public notice.
Yeah.
It's a public meeting.
Adam,
Anyway, that was in Normal Heights.
it's just very unusual. I
Yeah,
just wanted
absolutely.
to-
You guys feeling welcome.
Sorry?
You're making some of us feel unwelcome.
I am, why is that?
Let's move on.
Yeah,
Let's move on because it's next on the agenda.
Trying to figure out what's going on.
It's next on the agenda and we might be here a long time, judging by the size of the group. So
Public comment.
let's continue with non-agenda public comment.
Did you have something you want to say about fire
Yes.
safety?
Sorry, I just wanted to build on Susan's comments as well. The Fire Safe Council is something that's starting for Normal Heights. And in addition to creating a logo that represents that, it's really about having a community-driven grassroots approach to mobilizing the community to keep our neighborhood safe from fires. And I know this is a very, like, no pun intended, hot topic right now. But if you want to get involved in the Fire Safe Council, we're also looking for more engagement from the community to participate in that. So if there are people that are interested in getting involved in keeping Normal Heights safe from fires and would like to get involved on the Fire Safe Council, can reach out to me or to Susan or others. We're looking for board members and other people to join.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is planning evacuation routes part of what you're intending to work on? All of that. Because there are no evacuation routes that I know of in existence whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm working with the city on advocating for things like that, keeping the canyon clear, looking at evacuation routes, looking at, I think there's a lot involved with it, so.
Yeah.
Good. Any more non-agenda public comment?
Well,
Yep.
in the blue hat, I'm thrilled you're here, and I'm not saying this to be an ass. I've always wanted this room to be full, so thank you for every one of you being here.
Right.
And I don't give a shit where you live.
Anybody else in the room? Going once, going twice? Anybody on Zoom? Non-agenda public comment? All right, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is public comment, traffic safety and mobility experiences. So this is something a little bit different than what we normally have done. We decided to open up the floor to pretty much have an open mic kind of thing for community members to share some of their experiences related to mobility and traffic safety, specifically in our neighborhood, and to get those experiences on the public record. So we're gonna do a public comment, the same time limits apply, 2 minutes per person. Mark is gonna keep you all in line. And after everyone who wishes to speak has done so, we might have some more that has been recorded. I'm not sure, we'll find out. Jim.
I have a suggestion, should we limit it to 1 minute?
How many people intend to speak?
2 minutes is fine.
I think 2 minutes should be fine.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right, so, let's,
Yeah, I can speak for 150 people. We took a survey, the Normal Heights Community Planning Group took an online survey asking people, is it safe to bike in Normal Heights? 38% responded that there were 5 options. First one being absolutely, it's a cyclist paradise. The second one being mostly, but watch out for potholes and distracted drivers. Third option was depends on the time of the day and how brave you are. Fourth option is not really, the streets feel like an obstacle course. And then number 5 was, are you kidding? I value my life too much to bike. And which one? 38% or 28%, 38 people said that they value their life too much. 12% said not really, but the streets do feel like an obstacle course. 26% said that it depended on the time of the day, and 25% watch out for potholes, and 9% said it's great. But the overwhelming majority, basically, are saying it's dangerous out here, and you need to pay attention if you're riding a bike on the streets here. Just really quickly, Allison Platt from Normal Heights, she's been biking on Adams Ave for 20 years. She feels more or less safe, but if she's just riding for exercise or fun, she'll go on a parallel side street. But if she's on a mission to get a haircut or something, she rides on Adams. She's had a few scary moments, but no more than she's had anywhere else she's ridden. But she recommends everyone pay attention. Also, some BMX riders around here say they love riding their bikes around here and having fun, going through cars and stuff. A lot of people from out of the neighborhood who bike here a lot. Logan Heights, East Village, people from the East Village, North Park, Hillcrest. They all say you just gotta pay attention, but the general consensus also is there's gonna be like a dedicated bike lane, but then the argument starts happening about parking versus bike lanes. That's the majority of it.
All right, thanks, Doug. Before we move to the room, I want to check to see if anybody on the Zoom has, looks like Ramey does, so take it away, Ramey.
Hi, so I want to talk about Mountain View Drive, which for 1.3 miles does not have any kind of stop. You have to go from West Mountain View at Adams to 35th and East Mountain View before you have stop signs. It is a racetrack around here. I have no less than 7 neighbors who use mobility scooters or walkers, and people fly down this street at twice the legal limit. There are families that try to use Mountain View for their bike rides, for their walks, for their evening constitutionals. And it is incredibly dangerous. And there's no place to actually cross the street of Mountain View until you get to those 2 stop signs, which I said, again, 1.3 miles apart. So I reached out to the city on my own and asked them to do something. I was told, quote, that they were not going to do anything on Mountain View because it would push drivers to other residential streets. This is a residential street. Something needs to be done. Other streets in San Diego have stop signs and crosswalks. We do not. I also offered to pay San Diego Police Department to come out and enforce because the city said it should be an enforcement issue. San Diego Police don't have time, won't come out and do it. So tell me what I need to do to get my neighborhood safe.
Great, thank you, Rainey. Anybody else on Zoom? All right, so raise hands. We're gonna assign numbers. All right, starting over there, to start counting, and that'll be your number, and that's the order you're gonna go in. So
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
yep.
8.
Arthur's 9.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Got 10? Okay, number 1. And if you want to come up to the front and kind of stand where Sarah stood from District 9, that's usually a good place for the owl to catch you.
Okay, I'm Bon Hartuni, I'm a resident of University Heights, and I learned about
And you can go to the side so
side?
everybody can see you a little bit better,
University Heights and
facing. Yeah.
facing that.
Everybody.
Everyone, okay.
Yeah.
So
We'll alternate.
I'm Bon Hartuni, I'm a resident of University Heights. I learned about, talking about how safe I feel biking here in Normal Heights from actually a flyer I saw at Blind Lady Ale House. And yeah, my eye doctor is here. I've been at Blind Lady Ale House before, but I've also been to Burn All Books for an indie web meetup. And yeah, I would frequent Normal Heights a lot more often if I felt safe biking here, but I don't. In fact, even walking here is not safe because so my path is I go on Mead and I go up 34th, and on 34th there is a crosswalk. I can't tell you the many times I've seen people try to press the light, people try to cross, and then get hit by a car because people just zoom past out of that. It's designed to make you drive fast. Yeah, if you look at 30th, and here's the thing: I own a car. I don't see what I mean. I just drive. I drive around here, but I don't because parking currently is bad. Parking was also bad at North Park before the bike lanes. The only solution is options other than driving. Like me, it was hiking over to North Park once the bike lanes failed. I got there so much more often. I give my business, to North Park so much more often because there are bike lanes. And I would love to give my business more to the shops here in North Park. In fact, my eye doctor has a location in North Park, and I'm actually considering switching over there because I can more easily bike there. So yeah, I'm not a resident here, but I'm a neighbor, and my eye doctor and the shops I want to go to and the events that I want to attend are here. So I'm still San Diegan, and I feel like the streets should be safe for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Number 2. If you want to stand on this side so we can alternate who the back is.
Everyone, my name is, I'm a resident here at Heights. Also worked as a traffic engineer for almost a decade now. And something that I think about, when I think of why I chose Normal Heights is number one, I wanted a vibrant community. You know, I came from the Bay Area where I was riding my bike, taking a bus, walking everywhere. I didn't have a car, and I lived up there for 12 years. And coming down here in Normal Heights, where it's located in the mid-city area, to be so close to the North Park, to go to City Heights and have it be, you know, for the most part, fairly flat, was something that ultimately I decided I wanted to buy a home here. And I don't regret that decision at all. And I think the survey results that you provided, it shows that the people who are scared to ride here are the ones that they are interested. They're interested enough to fill out the survey and indicate that they feel unsafe on the roads. And those trends are consistent with what, you know, in my field, we see nationwide, where there's such a large population of people who are interested in riding their bike, but concerned for their safety. So I really want to implore all the residents and business owners here in Normal Heights to think about what a vibrant community means to them, because to me, it means that anyone can walk and ride their bike regardless of age or ability and feel safe doing so.
Hello, my name's David Noah. I'm a resident of Normal Heights. I'll keep this pretty brief. I just wanted to voice a few comments / concerns. Being a resident of Normal Heights, I'd like to echo the concern with Mountain View, being dangerous for pedestrians, bikers, and it is so wide, so much wider than it has to be, which obviously encourages driving faster. So traffic calming measures, I think, are definitely due there. I notice on several streets, the bike lanes become garbage bin lanes on garbage pickup day. So that's obviously not ideal, causing bikers to have to go out of the way of where the bike lane should be, rendering them more or less useless. And then lastly, daylighting. So that obviously came into effect January 1st of this year. And I noticed several intersections within the Normal Heights area are not abiding by those regulations, which as a frequent pedestrian of those intersections, it's rather dangerous. So I don't know whether that should be reported on the Get It Done app, or if there's a better method for getting that addressed. That's it.
So concerning daylighting, there is a 60-day grace period where if enforcement sees them parking there, they're given a warning citations on the vehicle. If you look at any intersection that's not painted red yet, you might see a vertical line with an R next to it. It means it's been marked that it's supposed to be painted red. The city is, from what we were updated last month, is they're kind of starting downtown and working their way out, and it's gonna take a long time to paint all these curves. But they're working on it.
But
We'll
the law
continue to
is,
advocate for that.
the law is in effect whether the curb is painted or not.
Correct.
Right.
It will be, and fines will start, starting March 1st, I believe, yeah. And, yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Paul Jamison, I'm in Kensington, but I make nights just about every day because there's so much more to do over here. I rode Adams here tonight, and I was just thinking about how safe or not safe it is. You know, the speed, I think, on Adams is what feels most dangerous to me as a bike rider, because some drivers do like 40 miles an hour, and if you get hit at that speed, you're much more likely to have a severe injury or be killed than just a minor injury. So for me, as an experienced rider, that's my biggest fear out there. Also, you kind of have to ride in the door zone, or the car, some of the drivers get angry at you, and then my partner got floored one time and had head injury. It was just it was bad. So I want to ask about the visibility thing. Thanks for the update on that. The current red zones, people park in them like all night sometimes on Adams because there's no enforcement. And I was wondering if maybe we had meters on more of Adams, we could fund more enforcement. Because right now, and I think there's a rule where each business has to say whether a meter goes out there, and maybe there's some changes to that policy happening that I was reading about. But I think like individual businesses shouldn't decide what should happen in the public space, right? Like, let's get some meters in, let's get some more turnover, more capacity, and then let's get some more funding to enforce the red zones. People are just gonna park there. Ideally, like a dedicated bikeway would be great on Adams. I know it's controversial because it would take away parking. I think we have an example already, and that's 30th Street in North Park, and it's just been a huge improvement for me. I can't say how much more safe I feel. Businesses are continue to come in. Businesses are successful. I know not every business has been successful and some have suffered, but that's gonna happen in any situation. So anyway, let's try and make it more safe for bicyclists and pedestrians. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good job keeping in order, by the way. I appreciate it.
Just have to remember one number. Hi, I'm Chris Whitman. I'm a resident in Normal Heights. I've been here 10 years. Just live a block over that way. I do a lot of biking. Most of my rides either start or end going up and down towns. So I get plenty of experience with it, all sorts of times a day. Before workday starts, after the sun goes down, rush hour, you name it. Seems like the last couple of years, the safety has kind of gone down. I felt less safe riding on Adams than I thought previously. Speeds are up. Seems like people are more distracted. I'm a big fan of what they did over on Mead. They added all the traffic circles and traffic calming measures. I feel like something like that would fit well along Adams. I know there's plenty of controversy about bike lanes or not. I'd like them, but it seems like something to at least calm the speed would be a minimum that we need to do to keep it safe and keep more people riding around here. Heard a lot of other good comments already about Mountain View. I'll echo those, and also, yeah, that's it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
My name is, again, Adam Deutsch, and I was on this board for like 6 years. So it's fun to hear the same conversations happening over and over again. I live in a one-car family. We live over on Bancroft and Mead. My kid goes to Adams Elementary. I work out at Rosemont College and I commute by bike every day. The story of Normal Heights, and I don't want to repeat anybody, echo what everybody said. I agree with every comment made so far. The story of Normal Heights is the story of disconnection. There is one bike lane going down Mead. And technically Adams Avenue is a bike lane. Technically it's a class 3 bike lane. There are sharrows painted all over the place. But paint is not protection. Paint does not stop drivers. If anybody feels safe in this neighborhood, it is purely because drivers have decided that they're not going to be hostile. I have been harassed. I have been chased riding my bicycle. I had a bus driver for San Diego Unified going to Normal Heights Elementary, come up alongside me, harass me, honk, and drive me off the road. And I had to report that to San Diego Unified. Enforcement is somewhat of a joke. There's just no enforcement for these things. It doesn't matter if you have it on video. It doesn't matter if you know you have evidence. Drivers, you can kill somebody in the city of San Diego and get away with it. And I'm thinking about Matt Keenan, who was killed by a driver who went the wrong way, crossed the double yellow into the bike lane on Camino del Rio South, and did 4 days in jail. 4, didn't even lose the driver's license. 4 days in jail and suspension. We are only safe if a driver is in a good mood. And I think that we can make a lot of improvements here. We can slow speeds on Adams Avenue. People have died there also. We can maybe think of something creative. You don't want to get rid of parking. You don't want to put in a dedicated bike lane. What if there was some sort of barrier around 35th time? I respect it. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alpha. I've lived in Normal Heights for 12 years now, all of which I've been cycling and walking. And I've had a lot of close calls, and I know I'm not alone in that. If you're cycling on Adams and on a shared road with the sharrows, You have to worry about on the right, potentially getting doored, people peeling out of their parking spot. And then on the left, you have to worry about cars not giving you 3 feet of space, potentially crowding you, or even worse, aggressive drivers tailing you, honking at you, because they don't understand what a shared road is. These experiences aren't new. I believe that if you prioritize safety, it wins for everybody. And I would encourage everybody to imagine community and streets built for people and not cars.
Hi, I'm Tyler Schwenk. I live over in Hillcrest, but I bike down here all the time. I bike everywhere I go. And yeah, I wanted to reiterate the Shero on Adams Ave. It just doesn't work for biking. You have to either be, like I said, in the door zone or in the middle of the road. If you're in the middle of the road, cars are gonna be coming behind you, they're gonna be honking. Most of the time, they're gonna cross the double yellow line, try to pass you, going faster than the speed limit. So yeah, it just creates a dangerous environment, not just for the bikers, but also for other people on the road, pedestrians, other drivers. Yeah, and I just also wanted to say that the idea of a bike lane would be great. Something like Mead or 30th is awesome, and I understand that removes parking spaces. And while that has a very like direct removal of parking spaces, it can also allow more people to bike. There's more accessibility for biking, which means less people on the road, which also means more biking spaces or more parking spaces. Right, so just want that to be considered.
Thank you. What was your number?
8.
8, so number 9.
That's me. Do you mind if I don't stand up? I've been told I have a loud voice. I don't have answers. I have questions. And like usually there's 10 people. And yet when the bicycle issue comes up, the room is full. And I wonder, is that the only issue that concerns the residents of not just Normal Heights, but all of Uptown? You know, I'm not going to be localist, if you know what I mean. But I hear a lot of people saying, talking about the issue, that they don't feel safe. Well, I feel safe walking around. I talk to homeless people. I feel very safe in San Diego. And I just wonder, what are the statistics? Adam seemed to paint a real blood and gore picture. But and some of the other people, I personally don't see that, but that's just me. But talking about the crowd again, I'm sorry. A couple of months ago, we had a survey that said that Normal Heights was reducing in population and aging. Looking around the crowd tonight, you know, I don't really see that. So I wonder, that's one of my questions. Is it really, how safe is it? What are the statistics? And second, how representative is our crowd tonight? And I do wish all these people would show up and, you know, maybe we could get our sidewalks fixed and our sight lines painted and underground the telephone wires, canyon safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe I'm last. Ben Hayes, long-term Normal Heights resident. I will say, one of the reasons I showed up, and I've known about this community planning group for only the last 9 months. Not well publicized, not much information goes out about it. Walking around the neighborhood, I didn't know this building existed until tonight, and I walk around. We walk our dog all the time. I ride my bike here most days of the week. This is an issue that matters. I rode my bike to work 3 days last week. I'm out there, almost getting hit by doors, almost getting hit by cars. I had to pull off the road on Belton right before I crossed Adams, right before I got home last Thursday afternoon, because I almost got hit by a car. That happens. Sidewalks are great, telephone lines are great, fire safety is great. This is an everyday thing for these people. That's why they're here. Couple other anecdotes I'll say. Just to get it on the record, the stoplight sensor on Felton southbound across Adams doesn't work. You go there on your bike at 6 AM, red. Adams turns red, Adam turns green again. 2, enforcement. Bike lane on me, awesome. But cars parked in it all the time. Fucking joke. Thank you.
Can I ask? That stoplight sensor, when you're traveling which way?
South
Felton and Adams.
Yeah, southbound Felton and
Have you
Adams.
done it, get it?
Northbound doesn't work either.
I don't know if northbound.
I do northbound, it doesn't work either.
I do
Southbound
there's traffic.
and northbound don't.
But are you familiar with get it done? And
I've submitted lots of pictures of cars and bike lanes to get it done and fucking joke.
All right,
we'll do a bike mob, flash mob.
all right, anybody else in the room? Anybody? Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle. I bike through here frequently. One reason I feel like a lot of us here is because when we're biking, it is life or death. I know Stu mentioned other issues. Why are we not advocate to those? Because when I'm biking, I nearly get hit by a car this far away. That was this close to me dying that day. And I feel like all of us here in this room have had that happen frequently, all the time. These bike lanes can save our lives. We all want to bike. We want to get out of our cars, get moving, and we can't do that if we're going to die. I know a lot of people, we're okay with the risk we go on those roads. Some people, they have kids, they're not gonna bike with their kids on Adams. If I had a son or a daughter, I would not want them on that road at all. I would keep them out of this neighborhood biking.
Okay, we're gonna go to Zoom real quick. Somebody had their hand up on Zoom. Looks like they took it down. Going once, going twice. Okay, let's go to Sammy.
I can still start. So I'm Sammy Burrows. I joined the board, I think, last November or almost a year ago, or a little over a year ago. And the whole reason I wanted to start attending these meetings is because I live above Blind Lady Ale House north of Grady, so I'm always crossing 34th and Adams. And I think I heard earlier that cross signal doesn't really work often, and the speed of which people go on Adams. I've seen many close calls for myself, for other people. There was a girl who got hit and her dog was killed. And that's part of the reason I wanted to come, because I cross that every single day when I walk my dog. I walk him 3 times a week. 3 times a day, not 3 times a week, that would be awful. So that's part of the reason I started joining this. And then I got into biking also recently, and often I'm finding myself on Adams, and the amount of times that I've been yelled at and harassed, and people not understanding what a shero is. I think that is something that I just am hoping that we can educate other residents and neighbors that are coming through Adams. And like Kyle said, just advocating, like, it is a life or death situation for many of us. Like I was life-flighted in a bike accident before. Like, bike safety is incredibly important. So thank you everyone for showing up and voicing your concerns. I know a lot of you bike around this area, and we're just trying to make this a safer place, and appreciate all of you that attended.
Thank you.
Well, I will attempt to be the opposite force here. My name is Scott Kessler. I've been biking in San Diego for 55 years. I ride 2,000 miles a year. Adam can attest on my Strava app. I consider biking a life and death experience in San Diego or any other city. It's like Frogger out there. And we have 31,000 people that live in Normal Heights, and there's 50 of you here. And the issue, no one wants anyone to die, but when I see parents riding their 2 or 3-year-olds to school down Washington or University Avenue, it's crazy. There's no way you should take kids on San Diego streets on the back of your bikes. The city was designed for cars. All of America was designed for cars. So the question is, how do we all live together in a constricted environment? The only issue for businesses on Adams is, and by the way, we are defined by the legislator as a parking impacted district. All of the bids in the city are. And parking is key to doing business. The business association turned Adams Avenue, which was a transportation corridor, into a neighborhood by planting 500 trees, putting in 2 miles of new curb gutters and sidewalks, and attracting businesses. When I came to work here in '89, we had 40% vacancy. So the neighborhood you guys are enjoying is a lot of hard work for people to get here. And I'll tell you that 98% of my business owners and property owners, and there's 850 of them, are totally opposed to bike lanes on Adams. Jeff and Blind Lady, total bike advocates. And I'm not saying that everyone's against it, but it's the issue of parking. So we have a competition of resources. And again, there's 30,000 people.
I'm gonna let Scott.
That drive cars in Adams, and parking is a lifeline. All these districts in the 50s and 60s went out of business because everyone drove to the regional shopping centers. We have like kind of a war on parking, and we're losing parking constantly. And it's great that people ride their bikes to businesses, and I've heard biking's good for business, but I ride around the city. I've been riding around for a long time. There in the mid-city, we're updating the mid-city plan update. There's 4 planning groups, and together there's 180,000 people in our plan update. And the bike community says there's 3% that rides out there. 3% of the population rides on bikes. That would be about 5,000 people a day that rode in the mid-city. And there's any of you guys that bike, you know, there's not 5,000 people that ride around here. So here's the question. When you put a bike lane in like down 30th Street, whoever says that bikes or the businesses on 30th Street are not suffering from parking, you're not in my business. We only have 2 blocks on 30th Street in our bid, and we lost 3 businesses. The delivery trucks couldn't get in, the parking, their customers turned around. So parking is a big key for us. If we could put bike lanes in and retain all the parking, we're all for it. But our line is you can't give 40% of the road bed to 1% of the people that decide they want to make the street safer. I'm all to making the street safer. We can't do it in sacrificing the businesses that depend on the parking. So that's all I want to say. You gotta save the parking. A bike lane down Adams Avenue would be opposed not only by the business owners, but a majority of residents. So that's the facts.
Okay, thank you, Scott. All right, Emily.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Emily. Scott mentioned it a little bit, but I also, just since there's so many bike advocates in the room and there's a question about data, we are updating the mid-city community plan. So that is this neighborhood Normal Heights. It also includes Encanto, City Heights, and many more I should be able to list, but you can go online and check the boundary map. But they just came out with the existing conditions mobility report, and I think that's a great place to find data because there is actually collision data in there, both in proximity to transit, pedestrians, bicycles, and it lists kind of these dangerous intersections where there have been severe injury and even death. So I do think there is data available. It's fresh, it's new. And that is kind of the existing conditions report, right? So we're going through this plan update. It's going to take a couple of years, but I think this is a great opportunity for anybody who's passionate about these issues. You know, the plan's getting written, so that's another place, another little plug because that's kind of the plan that guides this whole neighborhood for the next 20, 30 years.
Can I just? It says that, I meant to mention that, and it says to please provide your comments by February 28th.
Yes, thank you.
At the end of this month, so please review the mid-city condition mobility assessment
And where can people find that?
I'm always just like Google mid-city.
Yeah.
If it's the mid-city community plan update, I know it's a mouthful, but if you go to the city's website under community plans, it's the only one that's, well, maybe there's 2 being updated, so it's one of the ones that's currently under update. Or if you just plug it into Google, I'm sure it'll pop right up.
We can add it to our website.
Yes,
For Normal Heights.
absolutely.
Kenny. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian.
First, thank you all for coming out, providing your input, really appreciate it. I just had a question for those of you who've been on the board longer than I have. I'm new to the board. Have there's been a concerted effort in the past to get traffic calming measures on Adams? And if so, what has been the city response?
Yes.
Adams used to be a 4-lane street, so the business association in the 80s lobbied the city, turned it into 2-lane street. The business association proposed putting in head-in parking and thinning the street. City traffic engineers told us it wasn't wide enough. We proposed putting pop-ups out on Adams. They would only let us do it on the side streets. Pedestrian activity and activating the street, makes more pedestrian. So the businesses with the plan committee got 5 RRFDs in, 5 rapid.
That's the traffic signal, the flag goes red for pedestrians.
Yeah, so I mean, traffic engineering for years have been car oriented, and you can't do anything like that. We would point to Newport Beach, we say they have head-in parking, that's the same width as us, why can't we do it? And so there have been improvements, I would say. It's not perfect.
How long ago was the last effort to do this? Because maybe worth to try again, because I mean, the city is changing just a little bit in terms of some of these things with traffic calming and whatnot.
Well, the city's had an opportunity for the last 2 years to just slow this speed on Adams with the bill that went in. They haven't done it on one street in the whole city. So, I mean, it's 25 miles an hour on Adams. They could lower it 5 miles an hour in a second, all over the city. But why haven't our elected officials do that? I've heard a lot of people complain about speed. Not that the people that we're worried about are gonna obey the speed limit, because we had a car going 70 miles an hour, took out the front, street cafe in front of Rabbit Hole, and thank God no one was sitting there. They would have all been killed. So, I mean, why isn't the city lowered the speed limit? That's like an easy thing to do. Not everyone's gonna obey it, but most people will, and it will generally slow down the traffic. Because if a few people start driving slow, it slows the whole thing down.
Thank you, Scott. And also in answer to your question, a year and a half ago, one thing that the board did was we submitted a request to the city traffic engineering department with a list of specific locations in Normal Heights that we felt needed traffic calming. And that included most of Adams Avenue. And we did hear back, they were all reviewed, and they determined that none of the locations met the requirements. There are some locations on Adams Avenue that are in line. They're either on the unfunded needs list or they're in the capital improvement program project. I think there's one 34th and Adams is supposed to be improved beyond just the RRFB. They want to put in an actual, I think they call it a hawk, where it'll be an actual stoplight when the button is pressed instead of the little flashing lights. And then also at West Mountain View and Adams, there's supposed to be a crosswalk and an RRFB there at some point. And you may have noticed the, what are they called? Pedestrian lead intervals that have been added at most of the intersections on Adams. So if you press the button to cross Adams at 35th Felton and at Cherokee, you get 4 or 5 seconds to get in the intersection before cars start coming at you. So cars should hopefully better be able to see you. So they've added those in the last few years. But that's
also stoplights and stop signs. There was in the 80s, there were no stoplights and stop signs. So stuff has gradually been done. But in the old days, traffic engineers, no, you can't slow down traffic. You can't have a stop sign here. I mean,
We may want to keep trying, even though the city's been so resistant to these, keep trying to do it. Maybe at some point.
I'm not saying don't do anything. My only issue is don't take out the parking on Ave, because that would devastation too.
We hear you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Peter Holberg. I'm from San Diego. Currently live in Ocean Beach, but in high school I lived in North Park. I learned and loved to ride bikes here. North Park, Hillcrest, Normal Heights. It's where I first fell in love with different bikes. I ride here regularly. My best friend Patrick's with me today. And he lives on the other side of Mead. So for me, Mead is my lifeline to get to my best friend's house. We regularly frequent bars and restaurants on Adams. I love it. And there's a few stories we've heard tonight that I've kind of noticed maybe pieced together in ways that they weren't initially presented. Sir, you were wondering, why are we all here tonight if we're not here at other events? Why are there so many passionate cyclists for this issue? Scott, you mentioned you've been riding here forever and it's dangerous for families. And that's true. Like, you're spot on. It is dangerous for families. And sir, I forget your name. Kyle, you're talking about life and death. And it is that way, but we still do it, is what you said, because we love it. The truth is, I think that we are early adopters of cycling in San Diego. It takes a very passionate person to tolerate that type of risk. We choose to, that's what you said, Kyle, we choose to accept that risk because it's so important to us. Riding bikes is our zen, our meditation, our physical therapy. It is so much to people like us, but it's not accessible to everyone. And that's because it's freaking scary. You know, like we like come to terms with that in this way. You have to, Scott. But a family with 2 kids, they have a totally different risk reward that they're working with. And I think that's what's so important, because we point out that the numbers today, they're the numbers today under these conditions. But if we improve the conditions, if we make it safe and welcoming and accessible, shouldn't we expect the numbers to go up? And isn't that exactly what we're looking for?
Okay. We're gonna be the last in the room, then we're gonna go to Zoom.
I'm Ray Slower, and I live in University Heights. I've been there since '86, been riding all over the streets. And I moved here from Santa Cruz, and my wife's from San Francisco. We're up there all the time, and they have turned their city into a biking city, a lot like Amsterdam did, because there is no parking. So when you're in San Francisco, they have like routes through the park and different like dedicated streets like Mead that weave all through the city now with bike lanes. And sometimes you can't ride on the busiest streets, like you'd be a fool to go like Bell or Oak, but then there's streets on either side you can ride on. And you cannot believe the change in this, like, what, the last 8 years, where there's families with their big cargo bikes with their kids on it, and people are biking everywhere. And there is no parking there, so it's like, it really has made a huge difference. And seeing, like, I live on Mead, I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever. Have a biking street on my street, so I love it. But I think things can be done to like make it more attractive.
Thank you. Oh, one more in the doorway.
I'm Xander, I'm a public health researcher, I live on Monroe. And to directly speak to the point about the economic impacts of bike lanes, I did my master's thesis on this exact topic. To date, there has been no study that suggests there are negative impacts. There is only positive or neutral impacts of bike lanes. You can expect more people to be eating, using the restaurants, stopping for small retail purchases if they're going by on bike. It's been documented. I can provide the evidence. It's all out there. To say that the economic impact of having less parking would outweigh the positive impact of having more people, having more cargo bikes access all of our local groceries, is BS.
Oh. Okay, we're gonna go to Zoom, and Rami, it's your turn.
Okay, so there's a recurring theme here, and that is our roads are being treated like racetracks and we have no enforcement. So my question to the board is, as a community, what are our next steps? What are we going to do together to come up with a plan that we are then going to, I don't know, bug the city until they actually do something? And if they refuse to do something, are we then going to go and do something on our own as a community? I'm basically asking, what is going to be our next plan for moving this ahead because it is clear it is not safe out there. I don't feel safe in my front yard at times because of the racetrack. So what are we gonna do tomorrow?
I'll speak on that. Go ahead.
So, as we realize that community engagement is low with CPGs in general, which is why Sammy and I started a subcommittee to increase these improvements, to get more people in here so that we have more voices that are representative of our community. The reason we're having everyone here today is great because we're documenting, everyone's comment is documented. At this time, we propose and make a motion that we create a summary of everyone's comments today and kind of elaborate on that a bit and send a letter at least to our District 9 representative office, Sean Rivera, just so that it's on the radar. As far as what we can do tomorrow, I mean, we can organize. Grassroots is the best way to get this stuff done. I think, in my opinion, there's things have been done a certain way for a long time, and as we all know, this is a very poorly managed city. I had no idea that Adams Ave used to be 4 lanes, so we're so nearsighted, we don't think about the long-term future. I just had a flash image of, you know, bike lanes and fast lanes and driving, everything, a walking lane, everything would fit on Adams with double lanes, but that's not the case. But what we can do is compile everything here and make them aware of it, and we can be the squeaky wheel, basically. And the squeaky wheels are getting oil right now. And we can also, I would motion that we send that same summary to the Mid-City Community Plan update, and we can just compile that all in one and send it for everybody. So if everybody would visit that, it'd be great if you put your own input, but we're gonna put that into a summary or a motion that we do send a letter to both those people, Sean's office and the Mid-City Community Plan update, which is a summary, an objective summary of what the information we collected here today.
So you want to do an actual motion on that?
I would motion that we put it to vote on the next agenda, which is what we can do according to the rules we follow.
Yeah, so we're gonna put it on next month's agenda to
vote to even send that. So when we have a meeting and we get input like this, we can't take any action today. We can't send a letter, can't do anything. But what we can do is motion to put this on the agenda for next meeting. So I'm motioning now to put this on the agenda next meeting to vote to create a summary of this information and submit it to Sean's office and the Mid-City Community Plan update.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
We can have a discussion, yeah. We can have a discussion about this before we vote.
Yeah.
And that's what we should do.
Okay, so we've invited 50 bike advocates, safety advocates, but mostly bike advocates. So are we saying that they represent the 30,000 people in Normal Heights and we're gonna make a recommendation on? I don't understand what's going on
I
here.
think Paul had said before that we can write a letter and we can always write another letter, like of different opinions and different things. So
No,
we're just
but I-
doing a compilation of the things that.
No,
people
but
have
this is a
voiced.
compilation of,
Sue,
I think.
one person at a time, guys.
I think the thing that Jacob's asking for us to motion is to compile this thing and then we can vote the next one.
compile, what are we compiling? What,
So I took-
what the bike lobby came here to tell us? Is that
No.
what we're compiling?
No, I've been taking. Point of order. One person at a
I'm
time.
gonna jump in here. We have a recording. This entire meeting is recorded. So what we're gonna do is on next month's agenda, we're gonna revisit this. We're gonna talk about how we're gonna move forward. Right now, we just don't have time to have a long discussion. So it will be on next month's agenda and we will move forward at that point. When we have a recording, we can all review it.
What's gonna be on the, what's the motion again?
Well,
Oh, yeah, let's take the motion off the table and it's just gonna be on the agenda that we're gonna talk about how we're gonna move forward with this. Potentially an action.
Like our
item.
bike lanes on Adams Avenue gonna be voted on? 'Cause
No,
I mean,
it's just,
No.
we're just compiling the information that's been spoken today and sharing it with our representatives. We're just completely.
we're compiling information from the
Community.
bike lobby. You
nobody
guys
else
are bike advocates, right?
Right now.
Wait, you got.
People can talk.
What?
Trying to say, I'm just trying to figure out who we're representing. Are we representing the board?
The anti-bike people can come too.
We're representing the people that showed up. That's what we're representing.
So we're packing the meeting, we're saying we're representing these.
The people that
15
showed up, that's who we're representing.
Because we invited them.
Isn't that awesome? We invite everybody all the time and this is the
But
first time
listen-
it was full.
Point of
All
order.
that.
We're moving on from this topic. If this is on this topic, we're gonna move on. So,
Can I just
Adam,
ask a
please.
clarification? When did you say the deadline for comments on the mid-city plan?
28th February.
So that's February 28th, but that is just on the existing condition.
Okay.
So the plan for, future bike facilities, we're like a year or two away from that. So yeah, don't worry about the timeline for that. It's purely just existing conditions and that piece of the report.
Thank
What
you for
comes next
clarification.
will be,
Okay.
that'll be years and years and many more times to comment. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Francis, is this on this topic?
I just wanted to make a comment on this topic.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Please, go
Since I
ahead.
haven't made any comments.
You have not, please.
Okay, I believe that this is an enforcement issue mostly. I believe that all these traffic problems, the danger of biking, all that is because there's literally no enforcement of the traffic laws in San Diego. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. That I think is where efforts should be focused. Secondly, I think we do have to think about fire infrastructure. We have to, we're talking about calming, putting sort of obstacles in the road. We do have to keep in mind that we are in a very high fire severity zone and people need to be able to get out if we are in an Altadena situation, which we could be any. And so, those are my two comments for what they're worth. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Edie, this is Ringo. Had to come with today, so thank you for entertaining him. I just want to remind everybody here, this is a complicated issue in a respect. Anything that you do, any action that you take has a reaction to other people. They put calming circles in and Mead, which is great. I live on Monroe. Now Monroe is a racetrack. People blow through my stop sign all the time. So there's more going on here than just putting in bike lanes. It's changing the mindset of drivers, having kindness and patience for each other and understanding that we have, everybody has a right to their interests, whether it's a business interest, whether it's biking, whether it's walking. I don't feel safe in my car half the time, to be honest. So these are complicated issues and we should have open discussions like this, but I want to just remind everybody, that it's not an easy solution. It's not just put in bike lanes and everybody's gonna buy a bike and bicycle everywhere and feel safe. Unfortunately, that's not how it works because there's still gonna be drivers that ram into the bike lanes. I've seen it in North Park where they've, yelled at people and stuff, even with the dedicated bike lanes. So I just wanted to, share that as well. And I also had a question, somebody had said something about I didn't know about the meeting before, and since we do have such a large group, I would love to know what you guys think is the best way to get out notices for future participation, because we love seeing so many people here from so many different communities and sister communities, brother communities, however you want to put it. So if there's any suggestions that you have, we would love to hear that.
Glad to be bathroom.
Okay.
I'd say coffee shops, there's a lot of people moving in and out, some of them have bulletins, some of them don't. Some people like work at coffee shops, I think that's how I heard about this one. If you just put, either a recurring thing or like, hey, every month this is happening, that would be great, because it's definitely something I want to get more involved in. Again, this is the first time I heard about this meeting. And just like community spaces like that, I'm sure there's postings in the library, and other stuff.
Thank you. Thanks.
Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah, Anard.
Oh, hi. Oh,
Yeah, is it okay if we present and then that'll answer a lot of you?
Yes. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is an R from Bike SD.
Well, Jim from.
Jim's gonna go
Where are you
first.
from, Jim?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Ross. I formerly chair of this group. I've been a bike advocate since 1985. lived in this community that long. I'm a bicycle instructor on several bike organizations. You've heard the name, you've got an opinion about me. Anar and I are going to present, my piece is going to be about the types of facilities that the state of California recognizes as bikeways. Right, so that you can be more informed about what you're asking for when you think something is appropriate. Because the term bike lane is not a generic term for all the kinds of bikeways. Next slide, please. Next slide. I'm going to cover bike infrastructure and the types and the specific types that the state of California, Sandag, California, Department of Transportation and others recognize. When we ask for bike lanes, you're going to get a bike lane, but that might not be what you want. Next slide, please. I'm going to try to move faster. Hit the page down.
I'm doing my best.
Okay, can bicyclists ride on normal roads? Say yes, please. California Vehicle Code 21200 says you on a bicycle have the same rights and the same responsibilities as someone driving a car. One way of taking over Adams Avenue is to use the damn lane. If someone has to go slow behind you in a car, that's their problem, not your problem, although you do get harassed. Hit a button. All right, roads are for people, not just for people in cars. If we change that perspective, we can ride everywhere with more safety, more comfort, and more convenience. I know that's not arguing against infrastructure and bikeways, but it's saying we got plenty of roads we can use now if they fix the potholes. Next slide. So no matter what bike facility you use, hit the button. I wish I had, can I hit the button? And for you bike riders in the room, some of the objections we bike riders get is that I'll hear from some people, you bike riders never stop at stop signs or lights. So we're open to some criticism. And of course, it enhances our safety if we do follow the laws. But if you follow the law, we're going to have a better opportunity to get improvements. Next, pay attention to your surroundings. Next one, be conspicuous and predictable. That's why I wear those lime green jackets. Next, have fun, be patient. And the last one, be alert. Most crashes occur at intersections. Most crashes occur at intersections. You need to be alert and aware. The San Diego County Bike Coalition, supported by Bike SD, provides classes for people who want to get into bicycling and learn how to be safer. Next slide. The term bike way is the generic term for 4 or 5 different kinds of categories of bikeways. When you ask for bike lanes, you're only asking for one category. That might not be what you want. Let's look at and see what there are. First up is a class 1 in California's separated bike path or multi-use path that's separate from the roadway. There's an indication of those. We have those around Mission Bay and along some rivers. Okay, class 1 bike path. There's not much opportunity for that in Normal Heights, except I'd love to see a route off the cliff down to Camino del Rio South. Yeah, okay, maybe with an escalator. Next, the newest class is class 4. Those are separated bikeways. They are not protected bike lane, although some people call them that. The only protection is a post in many cases. They are adjacent to, but not part of the roadway. That's important because when I start talking about bike lanes, there's laws about requiring you to use a bike lane. There is no law requiring you to use that class 4 facility. We see those on 30th. Where else have we seen it? All over the place. Downtown, 4th, 5th, all over the place. Brand new, very expensive, but we do like them. Next is Class 2, these particular ones are buffered. That means there's a space next to the bike lane, either adjacent to the motor vehicle so that you're somewhat protected from door zone crashes, or sometimes on the traffic side. Bike lane, class 3, or excuse me, class 2. The California Vehicle Code 21208 requires you to use a bike lane if you're bicycling, except for exceptions. And there's several exceptions. Anybody can name one of the exceptions? Trash can in the way. Congratulations. You're gonna help us. There is another exception to when you're supposed to be required to use the bike lane.
Car in the way.
Say it again.
Car parked in the bikeway.
Somebody obstructing the bike lane. Congratulations. I have one more book. Is there another exception? When the lane is, you're going faster or the same speed as other traffic, you're not required to stay in that bike lane. Okay, what about when you're approaching an intersection and want to make a left turn? Did you stay in the bike lane and make your turn from there? No. Susan, shook her head. All right, next slide. There are class 2 bike lanes that aren't buffered, have no protection, no physical protection. Some of them are marked green, and you see those all over town. Those are brand new, started in Davis, California, 52 years ago. That's how new this stuff is. We're teaching Americans how to share the road, and you are helping. If you ride lawfully, courteously, blah, blah, blah. Next slide. Bike routes. There are several in San Diego. Most of the time they have a destination, says bike route to San Diego State. These are shared roadways. No special treatments. Next slide. But in many cases, like on Adams Avenue, we have these shared lane markings. They're called sharrows for short. They're there primarily to help bicyclists stay out of the door zone and motorists to realize there will be bikes in the way. We have these on Adams Avenue, and since they were put in at the bike shops on Adams Avenue, by the way, we've got 3 bike shops on Adams Avenue too. Yeah. They thought I was painting them. They're there to help you use the lane space you need. All right? They don't provide any protection, they provide information. Next slide. Bike boulevards are a way to set up bike routes. They are special facilities that I think we should be looking for that discourages through motor vehicle traffic and discourages faster motor vehicle traffic. There's a variety of treatments. For instance, in this picture on the right, at that intersection, a motorist can only turn right or left. They can't go straight. Not allowed to go straight. Bicyclists can go both ways. So it provides a more protected space, but still provides the motorists and the residents to get to their houses. There's a lot of ways these go in. Sometimes they're called greenways, bicycle boulevards. They're class 3 bike route treatment. All right, next. Shared roadways, my favorite. Most of the roads in San Diego have no treatment whatsoever for bicyclists, but they are paved. I'm with the League of American Bicyclists, that was formed in the 1890s. I wasn't there. They were there to get the governments to provide paved roads, where previously the government had no responsibility to provide roads. It was up to the property owner. So now we have governments responsible for providing paved roads. For who? Everybody. Us. Bicyclists and motorists. They are shared roadways. So that roadway has lanes on it. Those lanes are not car lanes. Those lanes are lanes for bicyclists and motorists, right? Next slide. There are also some special treatments. I won't go to them in special detail, but many of you have seen, for instance, this is called an advanced stop line. It's next slide. It's a space for a bicyclist to go in front of stopped motor vehicles to get an advantage for making their left turn and to get through the intersection in front of the motorists. I don't see many of them in San Diego. National City has several of them. If you use them, be careful and don't enter it on a stale red. Stale red that's about to turn green, because the motorists are gonna take over and give you trouble. Next spot. Another treatment you'll see downtown on Fourth and the new J Street bikeways is, this is a two-stage left turn bike box. So the motorists who, or the bicyclists who wants to cross the street, like the guy in white, wants to make a left turn, instead of having to merge over to the center of the lane to make the left turn, they're encouraged to go across the street, stop in the bike box, turn their bike around, and then go when the traffic allows. There's a lot of new treatments that are being introduced to try to help us get out of our cars and to make roadways safer. These are some of those. Next. Oh, let's go on. That's too complicated. Another treatment you'll see around town are bicycle-specific traffic signals. You see these downtown on the Fourth and several streets where motorists have a red light, or bicyclists, by the way, in the shared roadway have a red light, but then there's a special light that gives bicyclists a head start or a separate facility through the intersection. And by the way, the law that just passed last year, when the pedestrian signal, the advanced pedestrian signal goes green, you can go too. As a bicyclist, you can advance through the intersection on the pedestrian green. And that'll confuse motorists. Boy. Next one. There's also roundabouts. I won't get into, we've got several of them around town, mostly up in La Jolla. They're not specifically for bicycling, but they do reduce the incidence of side-to-side T-bone crashes. They do slow down traffic somewhat. And you'll notice, if you look at the highway design manual specifications, there are no bike lanes in traffic circles. You're supposed to take the lane. Okay, next slide. Last one about freeways. There are several freeway segments that are open to bicyclists. Most of them are closed. The way to tell they're open, because they don't want you to use them, is normally you'll see the sign, pedestrian bicycles, motor-driven cycles prohibited. Means you can't use it as a bicycle, or you cannot use the shoulder. But see that small sign there where they whited out bicycle? Is that sneaky? I mean, I'm trying to get them to change that, but that means you may use that shoulder of freeway, although you need to exit at the next ramp. Next slide. Okay, I started with this. Bicyclists have the rights, they also have some responsibilities. It hurts me when I see bicyclists scofflawing down the street, causing, it makes it harder for me and it makes it harder for NAR to advocate for improvements for bicycling if we're seen as mosquitoes out on the roadway. So that's it. Any last question for me about facility types? Yes, sir.
So the lanes up and down Fifth and Fourth Avenue, what class are those?
That is a class 4 separated bike lane. The difference, the easy difference between a bike lane and a class 4 separated bikeway is it has a vertical barrier of some sort. Sometimes it's parked vehicles, sometimes it's bollards, sometimes it's things that make you fall down. And for asking that question, you were.
Required to stop at stop signs and.
California Vehicle Code 21-200, bicyclists have the same rights and the same what?
Responsibility.
Yes, bicyclists are, been teaching bicycling for 30 years. What I teach bicyclists is that the stop sign is a legal requirement to suspend forward motion. Okay, you're supposed to come to a full stop, just like in a car. What's the important part? The important part for courtesy and to save your spin is to look, damn it, and yield appropriately. Right? So stopping is important if you don't want to get a ticket. The important part is look and yield. when it's your turn, you all know about the right of way rules, the car on the right or the motorist on the right, as the right of way, you're supposed to use it and all that stuff. First come, first serve, all of those apply. And that's what I drive a car sometimes, I know. And I bike. I find that I don't come to a full stop in any of those situations, in most situations. I look and yield and I go very slow. Don't tell the cop. But the important part is to look and yield and be courteous, right? I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's interesting, because that's not my experience.
Well, anybody in here ever rolled through a stop sign? But you didn't get hit. I need to turn it over to Anar. My time, go for it.
Right.
Hey everyone, my name is Anar. I'm the executive director of Bike San Diego. I work very closely with Jim as well as a lot of other advocates in this room and familiar faces. For those that I have not seen before, good to see you and thank you so much for coming here today. I want to see you at more of our rides, at more of our planning group advocacy sessions and our advocacy meetings as well. If you want to get more involved in bike, pedestrian, transit advocacy in the city of San Diego, reach out to me, Anar at Bike SD. Go to our Instagram, Bike SD, website, bikesd.org, or just get my number from some people in this room, and we can talk about it. But I want to talk about safer streets in Normal Heights. Is it me? Oh, that is me. In Normal Heights and beyond. And a lot of the questions that came up earlier, I think will be answered here, as well as what next steps this lovely board can take. All right. Great resolution. So I just added this because there was a question about statistics on pedestrian and bike collisions on Adams, which is a valid point. We want our decisions to be data driven. I come from a software background, so excuse the jargon. Here is a screen grab from the mobility assessment report that some people had alluded to earlier. This was just presented at the Mid-City Community Plan Update meeting a month ago. And all of these little dots are collisions. And you'll see there in the top left-hand corner, east of the 805 there are a bunch of little tiny yellow dots all on one axis. That's Adams. Those are all bike and ped collisions on Adams between 2018 and 2022. So there's clearly a problem. To say there isn't is just false. Obviously, other corridors have worse problems. You'll see University has a lot of yellow and red dots, which just means there have been more collisions there. Adams are mostly yellow, so I mean, I guess better than other places, but generally there are issues. Yeah.
Could you clarify the meaning of a yellow dot?
Yeah, so here, and I realize it's very hard to see, it's pedestrian and bicycle collisions specifically within 500 feet of a transit stop. And we have the 11 that runs through Adams, one of the best bus lines in the city. And so the yellow dot here is that there are between 1 and 5 collisions at all of those points that you see the yellow.
Excuse me, could you also do screen share for us on Zoom?
Oh. Hope this works. Until then, yes.
In terms of the collisions, is there any distinction or information as to the cause of the collision?
Yeah, this is a 200-page report. You can go in and look at every single collision everywhere in Mid-City and see exactly what it was. You can see, and this might feel good to some people here, whether the bicyclist was at fault, the pedestrian was at fault, or the motorist was at fault. And based on a brief analysis, it is evenly split among the three. Thank you, Sammy. Any other questions generally? Until we move on.
Reported.
Exactly, yes, that is reported. There are probably a ton that aren't, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room can testify to, where they may have a near-death incident and they don't feel they need to report it, because what's SDPD gonna do about it? Waste your time. Exactly, yeah, or it could be a hit and run or what have you. So yes, very good call out there.
Yeah, because I've been through it and I didn't make a police report.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's,
Cool. We're all good.
I hope so. Can you see it? Is that good, Danielle?
Yes, it is. I just thanked you in the chat.
Can you still see it?
Yes, it's much larger now. Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, Danielle.
Cool. All right, let me get a sip of water. So a lot of talk was brought up about a couple of new laws that have been signed by Governor Newsom in the last few years. One of them is AB 43, which gives jurisdictions and municipalities like the city of San Diego the ability to lower speed limits beyond, without getting too technical, beyond what they would have done prior to this law going into place. So somebody here, I think it was Scott, that mentioned that now the city has the power because of AB 43 to reduce speed limits on Adams. And yes, that has not happened yet, but I will say there have been a number of instances within the city of San Diego where the transportation department has used AB 43 to not only reduce speed limits, but so the way it works is every 7 years, the city looks at these different corridors and they review the speed. So they say, okay, it was set at 35 7 years ago. Is 35 still a reasonable speed limit here? And they usually do that on 7-year cycles. So the city, what followed what LA did is they stacked a bunch of these reviews until AB 43 was signed. And the second it was signed, they went through a bunch of these corridors where if AB 43 was not law, using the old methodology, the speed limit would have actually increased on a number of these corridors within the city of San Diego. But because of AB 43, the transportation department was able to keep the speed limit at what it was set to 7 years ago under different conditions. So the city has been using it in that way pretty liberally. Now there's some conversations internally on which corridors to prioritize, now proactively reducing speed limits on. Adams is, you'll be happy to know, at the top of the list. And we can talk about that a little more later. But so AB 43 empowers the city of San Diego to reduce speed limits. Now, it was mentioned earlier, and I want to reiterate it. People will continue to speed. The people that we're worried about don't care what it says on the speed limit sign. So then you need to impose some sort of physical constraints in order to ensure that those do speed can't, and those that still do don't put others at risk because they're protected somehow. That wasn't a good segue because I'm not going to touch on that right now, but I do want to call out a couple of instances more recently of incidents on Adams Avenue. It looks like Sammy's trying to join the waiting room. Okay. Oh, okay. Do you want to join? Oh, just a minute, really quick. So, you know, I'm sure most people in this room know about these very tragic incidents that took place on Adams, albeit the second one was in Kensington, so technically out of you guys' jurisdiction, but it's Adams nonetheless. They are our neighbors, and this was a loss of a little kid's life. And there's now a memorial there on, I believe, Iona and Adams. It's all very sad, and these will continue to happen if we don't do something about it. And everyone knows this: lower speed saves lives. You'll see going from 40 to 20 miles per hour, the likelihood of a fatality decreases dramatically to where if you're hit going 20 miles per hour, there's a 10% likelihood of you dying versus if you're going 30, 40% chance, and 40 miles an hour, 80% chance of dying. So these incremental reductions in speed have significant consequences. And I do want to call out really quick, I don't know how involved everyone here is with the city's budget process, and I would not blame you if you aren't. It sucks, and it happens every year. You wouldn't believe, and the second it's done, it starts again. But Bike SD is very involved with it, as well as a number of other organizations, the Bike Coalition being one, Families for Safe Streets being another, as well as Circulate San Diego. And so we monitor these things. And in the fiscal year 26 City Council budget priorities, so that's the fiscal year that's coming up, which will be approved in May. There's near unanimous agreement that traffic calming is a priority and that we should invest money in slowing down vehicles and making San Diego streets safer for everybody. And they specifically mention AB 43 as a mechanism to do this across the entire city. And Sean Ella Rivera is very vocal about this and is pushing for this along with Whitburn. So, all that to say, well, no, I'll get to that later. So if you do want to be involved and engaged with the budget process, definitely let me know. We make it very easy. We'll give you talking points. We'll walk you through how to reach out to the right stakeholders and make sure that your voice is heard throughout this entire process. Another piece of legislation that was signed a couple of years ago was AB 413, daylighting, which I think was mentioned earlier. Oh, it's so dry. So daylighting is law. And some people mentioned, I think, that there is a grace period until March, where you can park there and you won't be penalized. But after March, there is a penalty. I believe it's around $76 if you're caught parked within 20 feet of a marked or unmarked intersection. And so, yes, even if it's not painted red, you could get a ticket. But I have gotten some word from the inside that they will be prioritizing those that are marked red, but that is not legal advice. They'll be very mindful of this.
I got a question.
Sure.
So the city has tens of thousands.
Oh, God, yeah.
So they're not planning to go out and red curve everything, are they?
Not everything, but the way they're approaching it is, great question. The way they're prioritizing it is they're using one framework. So there's a pedestrian priority model, which basically is a massive map of the entire city, and you can go Google it. And it shows you where the most pedestrian activity is. As you would imagine, Adams is very red because there's a lot of pedestrian activity there. So they're using that to prioritize which intersections they're going to tackle first. They're also prioritizing any work order that's already in the pipeline. So if they've already put out an order to do like some streetscaping work or whatever, they're bundling daylighting as part of that, because they already have the workers out there. They just need to slap some paint on the curb. So it's a matter of prioritizing based on pedestrian activity and also upcoming like slurry seals and stuff like that.
How they gonna deal with visitors where they're handicapped in spaces on the corners or meters that are not removed? How is the city gonna deal with that? Because I imagine this could take 10 years to really red curve everything, right? I mean, it's, so how are they gonna deal with people that are not aware of this, they're visiting and like on 30th and Madison, 4 handicaps on each corner. They're, the city gonna.
I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
For parking meters in particular, they have been working with parking districts on, because they already have a list of intersections that they're going to tackle, and they've been working with the respective parking district to remove meters where they're impacted.
They are gonna take meters.
Yeah, they are moving meters in those cases. As far as handicap accessibility, I guess, or ADA accessibility, I can't speak to that, unfortunately. One thing I do want to call out is that over 40 states have had this law in the books for decades. So California is very late in adopting this. So just calling out visitors from out of state are probably used to not parking all the way up to the intersection because it's illegal to do so in their state, more likely than not. And then I just want to touch on, because I think there's clearly hunger in this room for change and to get involved. There's so many ways to get involved. And it could lead to burnout, but I think if you hyper fixate on one thing you want to change, like making Adams Avenue a complete street, then you can see that change happen, and it will happen. But here's some things I want to call out. So the city passed a complete streets policy back in December 2023. Bike SC, as well as a number of other orgs, were very involved with providing input and going through the drafts and making sure that it was as robust as we can possibly make it. What that essentially says is that it's a policy, not an ordinance, so it is kind of wishy-washy in some ways, but it basically says that when you look at a street configuration, now you need to consider all users of that street, including pedestrians, including cyclists, children, senior citizens, transit riders, and not just motorists. So it shifts the narrative away from this auto-centric approach to a people-centric approach. And I'm very proud that the city of San Diego has adopted that policy, but we haven't really seen anything come of it, except for one example, which I'm gonna get to at the end. Updated mobility master plan. So that is right now open to public comment as well. The draft was released October 2024. That is another, for lack of a better word, paradigm shift in how the city is approaching mobility. Now it's no longer considering motorists as the supreme stakeholder of all of our roads. It's really considering everybody from the bottom up. And there's a lot of really good stuff in that. We have specific talking points on what we would like to see change based on our deep dive analysis into it. But I highly recommend everyone in this room just Google Mobility Master Plan San Diego draft, October 2024, and it will take you exactly there. Look through it. They've made it really easy too. They've broken it up into sections, so you could look at specific projects that are part of this, stuff for bicyclists, stuff for pedestrians, whatever. So go on there, check it out, and if you want to leave comment, go to our website and we'll have information on that. Updated street design manual. This one, if there's one takeaway here, everyone in this room, the city is currently working on a street design manual. This is basically the blueprint for how the transportation department and their not legions, there's like a handful of traffic engineers will go in and design our streets for the next generation. The last time this manual was updated, for real, was 2002. So 23 years later, we're getting an update, and it is a great update. There are a lot of really good things in there. They are embedding parts of the complete streets policy, the mobility master plan. And again, they're sort of pushing this paradigm shift of not just focusing on drivers, but all of us. And they have a public feedback period ongoing. I think it's indefinite, but I've heard it's until the end of February. So that's another instance where I would just Google street design manual 2025 San Diego, go in, they have a cute little form, and you can provide your comments in there. It is a little technical, but again, we will have talking points for this as well to help you provide public input. And then, let me just quickly, all right, IBA safety resolution recommendations. So council member Ella Rivera and Whitburn last year put forth a resolution focusing on safety, and the independent budget analyst, which is another department in the city, took that and they're putting together a list of recommendations for how the city can make our streets safer for cheap. And this is a report that they're going to be releasing sometime in the spring. And we expect from there, we can see more quick build projects across the city. So quick build has anyone driven or biked down Morley Canyon in Florida? You guys know that plastic roundabout they have there with the yellow paint? They want to do more of that because it's cheap and it gets the job done. And better yet, it allows the city to not only save lives, but capture data on how it's used, and then to use that data to prioritize real hardscaping. So then in 10 years, when they actually have the money, they can go in and be like, okay, now let's put actual like concrete here and make this a legit thing. And so that's basically what the IBA safety resolution recommendations is gonna say, but with more specific. So keep an eye out for that. There's also all the budget stuff happening. In the fiscal year 26 city budget, which will be released in May, but again, it's up for review now. Council member Ella Rivera has asked for Adams Avenue complete streets. So that means in Adams Avenue, that works for everybody. And obviously we need to get creative, because how do we keep parking and also ensure cyclists are safe, right? How do we ensure that the 11, one of the best bus lines in this godforsaken city, and I will die on that hill, can be effective and efficient in going through all the cute neighborhoods that it currently traverses. That's not the right word. Goes through. So how do we make sure traverses? Yes. How do we make sure all of those things, as well as all the knobs going from the 805 and 15 at deathly speed, can all use Adams in a nice way? That's what a complete street is, right? So how do we prioritize that? And yes, to your point earlier, it will require creativity and workshopping and community input, but we can make it happen. But that's something that's in his budget memo. Also a lot of alley repaving. I know you guys need some alley work around Normal Heights, so that's also in his budget memo. And then street resurfacing, Mansfield between Copley and Adams. And then also there's a Sandag budget, another thing you can provide input on. There isn't too much in the Sandag pipeline that impacts Normal Heights, but there's a lot of good stuff for the rest of the city there. So definitely consider that. And then finally, one more plan is a speed management plan, which the city will have a draft for sometime in the summer. That's basically like, how do we use AB 43 and all these other tools to slow drivers the hell down all across San Diego? So there's probably going to be a lot of good stuff there, both around infrastructure and enforcement. And so keep an eye out for that as well. All right, 2 call to actions here. do what you want with this. So the first one is on the street design manual. We want to ensure that it's robust and prioritizes pedestrian safety. So we're asking all of you to go in and provide comment, but also the board. I've reached out to a ton of community planning groups. I am actually on the board of the new Uptown Community Planning Group, so we will be doing this too. I'll make sure of it. That to send out letters specifically asking for these changes to be implemented in the street design manual. And I realize it's incredibly hard to see, but I think I've sent a draft to you or Paul. If not, I'll send it to everybody. But basically, we're asking for prioritizing safety, reducing vehicle lane width where possible, improve pedestrian infrastructure and accessibility, enhance protection for cyclists, and set lower design speeds and eliminate inconsistent speed policies. So these are really high-level items we would love to see incorporated into the street design manual. Again, all this information is available, so if you want to get more involved, let me know. Like I said, this is a once-in-a-generation update, and it can save hundreds, if not thousands, of San Diegans' lives over the course of, the next couple of decades. And the final call to action is Adams Avenue complete streets. So the only complete street we have today in the city of San Diego is Park Boulevard. Who's ridden Park Boulevard through Balboa Park? Isn't it fucking nice? How beautiful is it to ride through our crown jewel and not worry about getting hit by an F-150? It's so nice. And then if you're on the 215, it sucks getting all the way to Balboa Park, but then you're breezing through the park. So great. We were very involved with that, so I'm very proud of it. But that's the only place, thank you. That's the only place we really see a complete street in San Diego, and we want to see more of that. And Adams Avenue has been in the discourse for a long time. We need to get creative, but there is some will to make it happen. And we would love your voices on how we can make it happen. So, this is a more long-term thing for sure, but if you want to get involved on making Adams safer for everybody, not just people in cars, and ensure that the businesses know that bikes mean business, reach out, let's make it happen. I think that's all I got. Yay, all right. I realize I yapped a lot, but are there any questions?
Thank you for presenting.
Mhm.
Did you send this, or will you please send this presentation to Paul over the board so we can put it on our website?
Yes, I did send V1. I'll send the final draft to you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as far as the street design manual goes, so this board were to advocate for traffic calming measures, would it make sense to wait until the new street design manual is finalized? I'm just thinking about we may get a more positive response because I'm thinking this from the city bureaucrat's perspective that they're gonna be basing their response to us on the current manual.
Right.
Which is more car centric. So does it make sense to wait for that to be finalized?
I don't know if you need to wait, but I would prioritize chiming in on the street design manual. Because here you're going to be asking for project by project changes. Here you can have a massive impact on any change that's made. So I would prioritize that. But if you have a laundry list of specific intersections or corridors or alleyways or whatever, what we're doing in Uptown, for example, and with the Vision Zero Coalition is we're sending a letter with all the high level stuff. And then in the appendix, we're having specific changes we'd like to see and specific roads we'd love to see. And so I would approach it that way too. Yep.
Question you may or may not know, is any advocacy going on with these changes and the new, like the bike lanes like Jim was talking about? Some of those are completely foreign to us. And I know downtown, they made a bunch of changes and it was literally overnight and there was no explanation to anybody.
Sure.
And I remember the first week going downtown and people were all over the roadways going, I don't know what this is. Do I drive in it? Do I not drive in it? And so I would like to, see when there's advocacy for these bicycle positive changes, that there's also education to the drivers, because some of the drivers are getting mad because they just don't know.
Yeah.
They don't understand Adams Avenue, that you can ride down the middle. That's why you guys are getting yelled at. It's not right that they should be yelling at anybody regardless. I mean, you're supposed to yield to people, you yield to pedestrians, but I think it helps when people understand that they're wrong or that, you know, this is the law, you're supposed to be doing it this way. I think that would really be helpful, so
For
that's something
sure.
I would like to see.
Yeah, I agree. Bike SC, we focus more on like advocacy and group rides and stuff like that. The San Diego County Bike Coalition, though, has an entire education like department. So they put on a lot of classes locally, not only for cyclists, but also motorists to learn about all these different changes and laws and stuff like that. So I'd highly recommend going to the San Diego County Bike Coalition's website. Their calendar is always up to date, and you can go to any of these classes. And I'm sure Jim can speak more on like specifics and, you know, how to get involved there, but they're doing great work on the education component. Yeah.
Well, all I have is questions. Where does the financing for all this come from?
For the city?
Well, for your advocacy, you have two groups and you make this presentation and you have planning groups and
We're volunteers, but we get tiny.
Who paid for the pizza?
You guys?
Who pays for the website? I mean.
Well, we're
nothing's free.
different things. So this is the Normal Heights Community Planning Group. I'm Bike San Diego. We're a different organization. I have no idea where the pizza came from.
No, but I mean, it takes money to.
Yeah. You're
And
onto
it's
something.
just. Yeah, you're telling me it just grows on trees.
No, I don't. What's your question?
Where does the financing for your advocacy come from?
So Bike SC is a 501c3 and C4 nonprofit. And our biggest sponsors are sweet old ladies in the Altadena neighborhood, actually. We also work with businesses. Blind Lady Ale House is a great sponsor that we work closely with and have partnerships with. But most of our donations are small, little, tiny, you know, Venmos and stuff going to our flip cause. So we just get our money from people who believe in what we do and love to see more of it.
Trees.
Sure. All right, next question.
Yeah, we had like a member of the community talk about a bunch of studies that showed like no negative impacts of bike lanes.
Yeah.
And we had a member of our board speak up and say he sees negative impacts of bike lanes. Do you have any more information on either of those sides?
I am neither an academic nor Scott, but I believe in science. So, you know, I like to believe that these longitudinal meta-analyses that have been done, not only in the United States, but internationally, and the findings from those, I tend to believe them, not in a dogmatic way, because certainly anecdotally, different businesses could have different experiences. What we at Bike SC try to do, though, is we work with business associations and business improvement districts, and I'd love to work with you. One we work with very closely is North Park Main Street, and there we launched a program called Bikes Mean Business. And so it's a cute little coupon book, basically, where we have, I believe, 6 or 7 businesses along 30th, both in North Park as well as South Park, and Alcona Boulevard, actually, where if you show up there on a bike, you get a discount of some sort. And so we're using that as like a pilot to just get a sense of, you know, how many cyclists are going there. And then we're collecting feedback from the businesses as well as North Park Main Street to see if this is something we can do at scale across the entire business improvement district. We're in talks with some other EIDs across the city as well to try to, you know, start similar pilots there. But, you know, the data shows that bikes mean business and that it has a positive or neutral impact on business corridors. We want to show that that's true here in San Diego.
Is there information linked to those studies on the Bike SD website?
Specifically to those websites?
Or I'm just trying to make sure that the information in the studies that talk about negative impact gets to our board.
Yeah, I have some on my open tabs that I can probably send over. If you, again, reach out here and I can get you that information, but it's not on our website.
Until the city does something to improve their enforcement.
Yes.
This is all academic. The city has to change its mindset.
I would argue, and I'm not going to right now, because I need to feed my dog soon, that enforcement is only part of it. Education is another part of it, but I think what trumps all, sorry for using that word. I know, I can't, on spot, is infrastructure. Because where education fails, and enforcement is lacking, cement gets in the way. So I agree though, yes, enforcement is lacking across the board. There are many reasons for that. Unfortunately, underfunding is an issue in the police department. This is a big city. And so in order for police to be everywhere, everyone wants them to be, we need more police officers, and we are very understaffed there. So instead of paying for police officers, which is very expensive, you can put up concrete, which is more of a one-time cost. So, but I understand.
Yeah, a couple more, two more.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to remind you, when it comes to putting cement across everything, we are in a very high fire severity. The whole of Normal
Yeah,
Heights
I was gonna.
is in a very high fire.
I live in Talmadge. We had a fire on
So-
Halloween.
so-
I know,
So we need to be able to get people out and in an emergency.
for sure.
And all the roads are narrow to accommodate, make bikes. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I agree.
These things have to be balanced.
Yeah, one thing, and a lot of concerned citizens have that sentiment, which I generally agree with. For better or worse, I think in your case for better, the San Diego Fire Chief does have final sign off on a lot of changes made.
It's not just in my case. I'm talking about my whole neighborhood.
No, for sure.
I have
All of
friends who
San
had
Diego.
3 minutes to get out of their house.
Yeah.
And they lost their house. They lost everything. And that could happen here anytime,
Mhm.
very easily.
Yeah. No, I understand. I live in a canyon in town. But yeah, fire chief does have a lot of say on how roads are built here. I'm trying to, I guess, reassure you that a lot of these changes will go through the fire department and they will have say on geometric and what, yeah. Okay, yeah.
I just want a little balance here, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Bikes are good for business is slogan. And 99% of our customers on Adams Avenue do not ride bikes. They either walk or they drive because there's just only 1% or 2% of us that are riding bikes. So.
You have a study that says 99%.
Adam, yes, and this is my business.
All right.
And I can bring.
We know what you're saying, Scott.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I've been hearing it for years from bike organizations, bike leaders. And there's studies from Seattle or New York City where they have, decent mass transit and more people ride, but it's gonna take a long transition to get more people riding, and you have to look in the meantime, so you cannot, this is, again, my only point, you cannot de-accentuate the need for parking. Most people drive, and so I'm just saying, don't forget the business owners whose life and, sweat and equity and, every day they're out there trying to make the community better. You just can't you can't turn it into like no parking because it'll just wreak havoc on these small business owners, and they're not wealthy people. They're, they're just barely making it, a lot of them. So I just don't want people to get carried away by slogans and optimism. Because it is a fact that businesses do depend on cars. So it is my, expert opinion that cars are important to, especially, and also pedestrians. More, way more people walk to businesses now than they did 20 years ago in this neighborhood.
Anyway,
All right.
thank you for having me. And
Thank you for being
all
here.
for-
Wait, can I please have a say? Can I please have a say on Zoom? Can I,
Thank you.
can I
Okay.
please?
Okay, we're gonna skip the next item on the agenda. I think people here are familiar with Get It Done, how it works. how it's-
Excuse me, but you're ignoring the person on Zoom who wanted to speak.
We have to move on. Remy? I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yes, okay, so everybody just left, but I'm really upset that this is not being looked at holistically. All I heard in that presentation was about Adams Avenue. There is a correlation between Adams Avenue becoming more congested and more crazy, and then our street becoming more risky because people are avoiding Adams to come down our street because it's a lot more fun. We've got this asshole in the white Mustang that lives up on Adams, but he comes down to our street and does 50 miles an hour because it's fun. Please tell me that any measures that anybody is going to look at, they're going to do it holistically so that one group doesn't benefit and the other group gets screwed. It has to be together or else it's just going to completely ruin the neighborhood. Please tell me, because that presentation gave me a lot of anxiety because I never heard anything other than Adams, Adams, Adams.
Yes,
You wanted the stop signs, right? Remy, you were talking about the stop signs?
I would like something done about the fact that we have 1.3 miles of racetrack.
Yeah, so for stop signs, the city is pretty primitive about how it goes about adding stop signs. Basically, someone needs to die at an intersection. What we've been doing in Uptown, and we just approved like 5 stop signs in one meeting. Basically get a petition signed by like 5 of your neighbors, bring it here, have the Normal Heights CPG basically like notarize that and also send in their letter of support to Council Member Ella Rivera. And you can get stop signs installed there. We did that in District 3.
I've been asking for 4 years for something to be done. 4 years.
Get all your neighbors to ask too, and bring it here, have them write a letter, and then that dramatically expedites the process. I found in my experience.
Invite them to our meetings too.
Yes, thank you, Randy. All right, we need to move on. I'm gonna skip the next item on the agenda, and we're gonna move on to, elected officials. We already heard from Sarah. Are there any other elected representatives of elected officials here? Online? Nope, moving on. We do have one, action decision item that we need to go through tonight, and that is election planning. The Community Planning Group has board elections in March to elect board members to 2-year terms. This year, there are 6 seats up for election. The election will be by secret ballot immediately before the March meeting on March 4th. Anyone who is 18 years old, resides in, owns property in, or operates a business in the Normal Heights Community Planning Area can vote. The qualifications for board membership are the same as for voting in the election. All candidates must be 18 at least, must reside in, own property in, or operate a business in the community planning area, which is defined as 805 on the west, the 15 on the east, El Cajon Boulevard on the south, and the Canyon Rim on the north. Bylaws establish that an election committee is made up of the board members who are not up for re-election. Paul, our chair, sought out volunteers from the members not up for re-election. Brian and I volunteered, and he and I and Paul are running the election this year as the election committee. So we sent out a call for candidates to the mailing list on Nextdoor, on the planning group's Facebook page, on the Normal Heights community Facebook page. And the committee will prepare the ballots, post a notice of election, advertise the election, and run the election.
In coffee shops.
Yes. We will advertise in coffee shops, in addition to other locations. One of the seats that is up is currently vacant. 5 are occupied by Francis, Nancy, Kenny, Julia, and Edie. Julia, you're running?
Yeah.
Okay, all 5 are running for re-election. And so we also have 2 other candidates who have declared. That would be Arthur Harrison and Mark Waller. And I hereby open up the floor. Is there anybody who would like to nominate themselves to run for the board in the election? That's fine.
I am gonna nominate myself again, but I'm just not sure at this time if I'll complete it. I know.
You're not up for election. Your seat's not up for another year.
I got an email saying it was.
No, there must have been a mistake there, a miscommunication. So, anybody want to run for the board?
Anyone?
Anyone?
Have to attend 2 meetings or?
No. Nope.
So any Normal Heights to the residents or consumers, you attended today, you could.
Yeah. Because we have to have the list established tonight, so we can hold the election next month. Going once? Going twice? All right, so the candidates for the election will be Francis, Nancy, Kenny, Julia, Edie, Art, and Mark. All right, moving on. All right, so let's hear from some community groups. Scott, what's the business association?
All right, I'm just gonna talk about our new banner because I'm so excited about these. So, the Business Association just hung up 136 of these in the neighborhood. They're mostly, native birds, butterflies, and plants, but there's about 5 or 6 that aren't native. They're just prevalent, like birds of paradise. But, they're hanging on, we have 136 antique, faux antique lampposts painted black and gold. By the way, the Business Association installed 120 of those. There were about 30 of them that were original here, and we wrote grants over the years. They're called mid-block lights. That's why Adams is so well lit, because a lot more lights on Adams than like on the residential street. So a lot of times we just do business promotion. This time we thought we'd celebrate the ecosystem that surrounds us. All the banners are different. Our banners hang over the sidewalks instead of facing the street, so they're pedestrian oriented, makes for a nicer pedestrian environment. We have Latin phylum names here, so it's educational. The elementary school kids can walk down, and in the old days, you had 1 image or 2 images, and then you hung 150 banners. So now with the print, it's just this, it's no more expensive to have a different image. So we have 136 images out. They're colorful, they're educational, and they're very different. And it kind of makes the commercial area folded into neighborhoods. Because what do you see in people's houses? It's gardens and plants and birds, and so anyway, for people that haven't been here a lot, Business Association puts on all the events. You might know the street fair, Adams Avenue Unplugged, Spirit Stroll, Taste of Adams. Try to bring pedestrian activity to Adams Avenue. So anyway, really proud of these. So next time you guys are cycling around or walking around Adams Avenue, just look at these banners. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, anybody from the Adams Recreation Advisory Group?
Yeah, but I was absent, I was sick, but Jim's here. Awesome.
I chair the Adams Community Recreation Group of Adams Avenue Rec Center is just down the street. We provide advisory information and support to recreation activities in the community, including the several mini parks, shared use facilities for the pool. The big event that we're hoping happens sometimes in my lifetime is the 30-year delayed demolition of what's called the mock building. If you go on Adams Avenue to the east, and Highway 15 to the right is the park. And there's a building there that's been empty for several years. It's got asbestos in it, so it's a little hard to get rid of it. But we're gonna have it demolished and expand the playground and the park. And there's some exciting plans for the expansion of that park, which is called Ward Canyon Park, because that's on Wood Canyon. Anyway, that's the major event. You're welcome to come. The meetings are, I can never remember, the 4th Tuesday of every month at the rec center starting at 6. We do Zoom those meetings, so you don't have to attend in person if you want to get involved. And I'll leave your email with the chair or on the list here. I'll make sure you get on the mailing list.
Thank you. Anything going on with the Mid-City Community Plan update?
I guess just to recap from earlier, the Mid-City Community Plan update, it's gonna take years, so we're still in the very early stages. So just to reiterate that the existing conditions mobility report, that's been released. Comments on just the existing, what we've already got, that is due at the end of the month. Actually planning for the future. Now you've learned from Jim what all these different bike classifications are, so now you can be very educated in your comments and say, I want a class 4 lane here. So that point will be probably for another year or two, but if you are thinking about something and you aren't gonna remember in a year, feel free, I can stick around. I'll write down your comments and I swear when we get there, I will put them forward, or I'm sure Bike SD will be involved at that point as well, and as will the board, so, that's the only update there.
Thank you. Historical property review.
Only one came up and it didn't, meet any criteria, so.
Okay, thank you. Anything happening with the utility undergrounding?
Yes, I think we're just on the cusp of sending out the.
We have to send out survey postcards to see if people in block 3DD of the utility undergrounding would like decorative acorn lights or not. Postcards will be in the mail very soon.
And that's like one corner of our north part of the neighborhood.
Yes, yeah, sorry, block 3DD, SDG&E jargon, yeah, it's like. Yeah, just the very top right of Adams, definitely way north and all the way up in the King area. Eventually, they will underground everything, it will take forever, but they have at least planned all north of Adams. They're thinking about it. South of Adams, I live there, I'm like, yeah, we got nothing, so. Maybe next decade.
Thanks. Community engagement, finance, report, anything?
We're continuing our efforts. We're just working, we met with Alexis Wall from San Diego Wildlife, and she'll be speaking next month. No, nothing new right now to report.
Great. Did I forget anything? Nope. All right, well, I thank everybody for being here tonight. We really appreciate you coming. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences. And I hope you come back again. And we will be having an election next month, so please feel free to come, join the election and joining our activities. I'm gonna close out the meeting. Meeting is closed. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Cheers.